My name is Quinn Duffy. I'm the game director on Company Heroes 2. Well, we were introducing cold tech today in Company Heroes 2. It's sort of an offshoot of our Essence Engine 3, the brand new engine we're using to drive the development of the game. And cold tech deals with things like blizzard conditions, cold conditions, frozen ice, breaking ice, everything that sort of builds on the sort of mythos of the brutal cold of the Eastern Front. Well, yeah, the mission we showed today was we called it General Winter, and this is really to introduce this sort of neutral third player into the Company Heroes 2 experience. He's pervasive cold. He's blowing wind. He's was death to tens of thousands on the Eastern Front through conditions such as hypothermia and frostbite. And these are things that we're introducing into the experience. Really trying to give players an authentic cold weather experience and seeing how they adapt their gameplay styles to it. Company Heroes 2 isn't just set in the winter. I mean, this is a vital part of combat on the Eastern Front, was fighting during the winter months and the effect on troops. But the story sort of covers the breadth of the war from 1941 to 1945, and so we're going to see a variety of weather conditions. But the cold weather stuff is the most, I think, has the most gameplay impact. Players have to deal with exposure and being careful with their troops and managing vehicles on ice. And there's a real sort of cause and effect in their decision making at the tactical level. I mean, in Company Heroes 2, you're going to encounter a number of cold weather conditions, deep snow among them. And in deep snow, troops are, they're encumbered by movement through the deep snow. It increases their travel time, which increases their exposure to the cold. And of course, in the cold weather, they can suffer from hypothermia and the other ill effects of cold weather. And members of your squad will actually fall out of the column and they can freeze to death. Well, there's a number of ways we illustrate to the player how their troops are suffering under these conditions. We've got a lot of new ambient animations, so troops will sort of rub their hands and stamp their feet and the kinds of things that as a Canadian I do almost daily. So there's that. It's part of our our research into the cold weather Eastern Front is just being from Canada. That helps. But also graphically through the user interface, the troops have a little cold weather thermometer on their tactile icon that tells you when they're going to get cold. And when that thing bottoms out, you really have to get those guys into cover as quickly as you can. You can send your combat engineers forward and sort of stage the battlefield by putting in fires, and things like fires were a vital feature of combat on the Eastern Front. You needed those things to keep warm. At the same time, they let the enemy know where you are. So you have this really life and death decision to make. Do I light a fire and keep my troops alive, or do I risk sort of exposing them to the enemy? And then coming across a campfire, an enemy campfire, or troops around a fire, by knocking that fire out, you can quickly cause combat ineffectiveness on your enemy as well. And so that becomes an interesting tactical part of using fires, staging the battlefield or denying enemy their own fires. Yeah, in Company Heroes 2, ice becomes a vital and dynamic part of the battlefield. And we were really inspired by what we saw in battles like Operation Spark outside of Leningrad, where the Soviets forced their way across the frozen Neva River. And the unfortunate thing is they're still pulling tanks out of that river that went to the bottom during that battle. We saw some of those tanks when we visited St. Petersburg last year. So, I mean, ice is, it can be destroyed. It could also refreeze, and so players are able to navigate around it at various times and in various places. So it becomes almost like a really super big bridge that can be blown out in parts, and you want to be able to trap your enemy on the ice. We're designing maps to actually use ice and to make crossing the ice a vital part of the tactical experience. So you can put mines on specific crossing points or on unexpected crossing points. You can also cover that ice with things like mortars and heavy artillery and the Katyusha rockets that you saw today barraging the German tanks coming across the ice. So there's a variety of ways to destroy the ice when the enemy is crossing. You want to be able to lure the enemy onto the ice. and also being able to see what's going on. You need to keep units there to kind of spot. You can't just willy-nilly blow up the ice all over the place because you don't know what's coming. Well, we've introduced a couple of new units in the demonstration we gave of Company Heroes 2 today. We've got sort of ends of the extreme. We've got the super heavy KV-1, which when it appeared in the 40s, early 40s, 1940, and when the Germans first encountered it in 1941, they had no ability to destroy this vehicle. I mean, the armor was unprecedented. And there's stories of KV-1s destroying mass columns of German vehicles. There's one particular engagement outside Leningrad where one KV-1 destroyed 22 tanks. Took 135 hits, and none of them penetrated the armor. So these are lumbering giants, and they look really great in the game right now, belching diesel smoke and all this kind of stuff. And on the other side, you've got extremely lightly armored but very, very powerful Katyushas. These are built on Soviet truck chassis. They can fire a vast barrage, 16 rockets off of their rail system, and they can cover an area of 2 to 3 football fields in just utter destruction. There's a huge psychological component to that weapon as well. They sounded terrifying to the enemy. You will definitely hear Katyushas on the battlefield, and I think when you do, we want players to have much the same reaction that their enemies did. That's kind of an oh crap moment. Yeah, big time. Yeah, there's a breadth of weapons that we're introducing on both sides. We're going to see the things that players expect, and probably a few little surprises we'll talk about later. But the Katyusha, when it was first put into combat, was considered a secret weapon. It was manned solely by the NKVD units in the army, because they were deemed to be the most politically reliable and the least likely to give these weapons up into German hands. So it was a super weapon when it was introduced. Well, we're releasing Company Heroes 2 early in 2013 on the PC.